Hello and welcome from Buenos Aires, Argentina, to this episode of Crossing Borders with Nathan Lustig, where Nate has conversations with entrepreneurs doing business across borders and the people who support them, with a focus on those that have some connection to Latin America. My name is Josefina Dominguezino, and I am an editor for LatinList, a proud sponsor of the Crossing Borders podcast. Sign up for our weekly updates on latinlist.com to get a summary of the week's biggest headlines in Latin American tech news. Nate's guest today is Gonzalo Ucar, co-founder of Hogaru, an on-demand professional cleaning company for SMEs in Colombia. Gonzalo, originally from Spain, is also an engineer and an endeavor entrepreneur. They talk about how an engineer from Spain became an entrepreneur in Colombia, the lessons he learned as a consultant that help him as an entrepreneur today, and also discuss Hogaru's unique business model. Gonzalo also talks about his experience going through the prestigious accelerator Y Combinator and gives advice to those thinking about applying. We hope you enjoy this conversation with Gonzalo Ucar.
Hey, Gonzalo, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for being willing to do it.
Thank you, Nathan.
Where are you in the world today?
I live in Bogota, so I'm currently in Bogota, Colombia.
Tell me a little bit about your business. What are you up to these days?
Great. So we co-founded Hogaru. Hogaru is an on-demand cleaning company in Colombia. Unlike other businesses nowadays, we decided not to go for a gig economy type of service, but we found an opportunity in directly employing the cleaners and selling them by the hour to our clients, both small businesses and families.
That's interesting. Why did you decide to hire them directly instead of making them contractors like many of the other gig kind of companies have done?
Yes, so basically there are three main reasons for which we did it when we started. First of all, there are so clients, when they hire a cleaning service, what they want is three things. First, a trustworthy type of cleaner. Second, a high level, a high quality type of service. And third, not having to deal with legal issues. And that includes having the same cleaner. So having the same cleaner over time creates some type of legal contracts. So if clients don't want to have any type of problems having this recurrent type of thing with cleaners, they want a company to do this type of things for them. So this on the demand type of the business. In the offer part, what we saw is in Latin America there are huge informality. That means people doing this type of jobs don't have a recurrent income. They don't have social security. This creates a problem in them planning financially, getting loans for paying a house, and so on and so forth. So giving them a formal job allow them to improve their way of living. So we saw an opportunity from the two parts of the market. And we made the decision 4 years ago, and so far, I think it was one of the best decisions we could make.
That's awesome. So I want to jump into your background before we go a little deeper into your business. Where are you from originally?
I'm from Spain. I'm an engineer, and I worked at McKinsey for a couple of years before becoming an entrepreneur in Colombia.
And how did a guy from Spain end up in Colombia?
So that's the great question. Mainly, I really, when I was a consultant, I had the opportunity to work in Latin America. And what I saw is that the opportunities are much bigger and the impact, it's bigger. So being an engineer and wanting to solve real problems in the world, I felt that coming to Latin America and Colombia in particular was the perfect place to be in order to see with my own eyes what an entrepreneur can build.
When you were growing up, did you always know that you wanted to be an entrepreneur at some point, or is it something that just came up during your career path?
I guess I always thought I would become an entrepreneur at some point in life. To be honest, I thought that would come later in my career. But I always admire successful businessmen that took risk to improve how people lived. I really enjoy building things from scratch. And I have this bias of leaving a big footprint. So I guess the being an entrepreneur was quite a thing for me.
And how did you decide this business rather than any other business that you could have done coming out of McKinsey?
Yes, so Hogaru was the third pivot of two previous businesses that we had at the moment. What we were trying to fix was the informal, I don't know if in English it's understood informal, this type of contractors in Colombia. So in Colombia, it's very hard to find a trustworthy and high quality informal professional worker, plumber, electrician, cleaner, nanny. Um, and from the previous experiences, we realized that the real pain in Colombia was in the cleaning sector. And here, due to the huge availability of cleaners and the fact that the labor is very cheap, most people have a cleaner. And finding a trustworthy cleaner is something very difficult in Colombia. So we saw the opportunity in the country at the same time that in the US and Europe, many other entrepreneurs were trying to solve this same problem. So the timing seemed to fit.
And when you were first coming out of consulting and into entrepreneurship, what were some of the first couple of steps that you took to get the business off the ground?
So I would say, first of all, is finding the right people to be in business with. And the second was talking with customers a lot and never stop talking to them. And that's what took us from the first business to where we are today.
And what were some of the biggest lessons that you learned as a consultant that help you as an entrepreneur today?
I think as a consultant, what you learn are very strong frameworks that help you solve problems in a proper way. So that's, I'd say, the first and most important experience for me. And the second are the analytic tools, the data-driven type of model that drives decisions, and that in any startup are key.
And when you started the business, did you raise money in the beginning or did you start with bootstrapping? How did you think about that and what did you decide to do?
So we started bootstrapped for a couple of years. We had some small funds from some accelerators. So Wira, for example, from Telefonica helped in the beginning. And then when Hogaru launched, like 4 years ago, a venture capital here in Colombia invested in us. And then after being in Y Combinator a couple of years ago, we had a second round. To be honest, fundraising for us was actually tough. So we have had to do a lot with limited funds, and that helped. And that taught us a very important lesson as well these years.
What was it like when you were first starting to raise money and mostly probably going after Latin American VCs compared to after Y Combinator raising your round? How was that looking?
So when we started, there were very few venture capital in Colombia and Latin America. So that was tough at the beginning. Being at YC helped us get in the door of very important VCs. The problem that we found is that in the US and in Silicon Valley in particular, there were some stories of bad businesses or bad investments in this vertical, and that made them very reluctant to invest in us. And the second thing in Silicon Valley is that still today, the direct employment type of business are not well seen. Many venture capitals prefer in the US the gig economy, contractors type of business. So it wasn't the fairy tale for us, even after being in YC.
And how did you decide to apply to YC being a Colombia business. This was probably back in 2016 or 17,
Yes,
when
yes.
there hadn't been that many Latin American YC companies yet. What made you decide to apply, and what was that process like?
So, fortunately, we get there after rapidly. So there were some very good Platzi, or very good Colombian entrepreneurs had been already there. So that was easier for us. The process for us took a few applications. So we didn't get there on our first shot. And we get there in order to meet some of the smartest entrepreneurs and advisors in the US that would help us try and solve the big problems that we're facing in Colombia. So if you are going after big problems, having big heads and big experience is always something you should look for.
What would your advice be to entrepreneurs that maybe haven't applied to YC yet about why they should do it? What did you get out of the program?
For me, it's about two things. First, speed and trying to, as they say, make things that don't scale, but you test very quickly different hypotheses in business. And the second one is always be with clients, with clients, and know what clients think, feel, or why they're angry at you. So these two things, I think, helped us because we had been in business for 3 years. So sometimes you forget these type of things once you grow. So it was very, very helpful for us having this type of pressure and guidance in order to redirect the business.
And thinking about the interview itself, once you get selected, that's one of the more high pressure times that an entrepreneur might go through. And we've had many YC founders talk about their advice for getting through the interview. What was your experience like, and what would your advice be to entrepreneurs that are going to go to that interview in the future?
So despite the fact that you're, as you said, like super stressed going there, as you are facing one of the toughest interviews or processes in the world, we felt very at ease. Something that you find at YC are very nice partners, people with whom you will share once you're in the program. So the type of questions and the atmosphere that you live there is very, I mean, it's very like professional and cold, but at the same time, it's like you feel comfortable. What I saw is that, of course, they're looking for great entrepreneurs and great ideas, but they're also looking for uh, great teams and teams of people who are smart but not like arrogant or people tough to work with. So showing a good team, showing a good like coordination or a good relationship with your partners and being yourself was a big part of being accepted, I guess.
So let's talk about the business in a little more detail. Where are you guys today? What's the status?
So we are currently in Colombia's four biggest cities. What happened to us is that this year we decided to become profitable. So for the last 6 months of the year, we're working on building a profitable business that will continue to grow and expand, but without so much funding, outside funding.
And what made you decide to go down that path? A lot of startups, especially in Latin America, with a lot of the new money that's come in over the last couple of years, have decided to continue to kind of grow very fast, burn a lot of money, and maybe rent market share. Why did you decide to fix the unit economics and become profitable?
So I would say it's the for as I was saying before, for us getting the funds weren't that simple, and at some points what we saw is that the business was at risk of disappearing if we didn't get the funds. We are employing uh, between cleaners and staff almost 1,000 people, and seeing and we are like solving a real problem in Colombia with thousands of clients each month. So fearing that we could lose the business, fire 1,000 people, and not solving the problem of real people out there that every week purchase a service with us made us think whether that type of gamble risk was worth it. Uh, if we were trying to look for, I don't know, a bigger exit or a bigger round later on, and we decided it wasn't worth it. So we decided to become profitable.
That makes good sense. And another thing that I know you've been a part of is Endeavor. So tell me a little bit about that
Yes.
process and talk a little bit about what Endeavor is for people maybe who are not in Latin America listening and haven't heard of it.
Yes, so Endeavor is for me, Endeavor is an international network of high impact entrepreneurs in many parts of the world. The process, the network is amazing. Entrepreneurs so Endeavor is an international network, but it has a local presence in each country of amazing entrepreneurs. That network is super helpful in the problems that you face, both the entrepreneurs with whom you can talk and the Endeavor staff and advisors that they have. And for us, it was very very interesting because even from the interviews with them in the final round, they focused like almost 2 years ago a lot on why we were not profitable. We were at a time where we were supposed to grow after YC and go after funds. So they made us think again of the important questions from a business perspective that we were forgetting. So even from the interviewing process up to this point, they've been super helpful for us.
And what have some of the biggest issues that you've had to overcome been in the business that are now more or less solved today?
So I would say the the two more important ones are first occupancy rates and second the pricing. Um, Both of them are key to the growth and sustainability of the business. So talking about occupancy, having a direct employment with the cleaners makes that if we have unsold cleaners, we have to pay them from our pockets. So that's very tough from a financial perspective. We found different type of incentives to clients in order to maximize the occupancy for every single day and every single shift. And the second problem is pricing. Again, as we have a direct employment type of thing, we have to pay full social security to our cleaners. That increases the cost of the cleaning service by almost 50%. So when clients compare us with the black market, we are much more expensive for a similar service. So finding a pricing that clients would pay and not go back to informality, but it would make sense from a financial perspective and from a unit economic type of thing was tricky. And I think we almost solved those two problems during this year.
And what would your advice be to entrepreneurs that are maybe just getting started or are still working to get it off the ground for being able to build a profitable business in Latin America?
So I would say, first of all, it's very important to, of course, learn from the other type of businesses who don't think about profitability and see if their model makes sense for them or not. But if they think that profitability is important, it's key to properly understand the unit economic of the business, to understand the volumes that you need in order to cover the costs of the company and see if there is a clear path to get from zero to that volume. And if it does, manage and grow the company accordingly in order to get there. But this is this famous path of profitability that so many funds and entrepreneurs are talking about now. So think where you have to be in order to be profitable, what you will need to get there, and find out whether you can sell a service at a price that will allow you to get there on time.
So staying on the theme of advice, if you could go back to when you were just starting your first business in Colombia, knowing everything that you know today, what advice would you give yourself?
First of all, fasten your seatbelt and enjoy the ride. I guess being an entrepreneur is an emotional roller coaster. And as a consultant or as a rational type of person, you usually forget how hard it's going to be to do it. So I would have said strengthen your friendships and family connections, and learn more about how you feel and think in order not to be I don't know, like super beaten in the difficult parts of being an entrepreneur. So read more psychology, talk to more people, and share more of your fears and problems, and not being so tough.
What books, blogs, podcasts, or documentaries do you like to recommend to people?
I like to read from mainly three things: business. So they are in LinkedIn or in big good blogs. I don't know, Paul Graham's blog or Andrew Sim's blog. Don't give out venture capital and startups. I think are very interesting. Then I really enjoy reading about psychology and history, as these are two like topics where entrepreneurs don't understand, but help them in their day-to-day life a lot. So I really enjoyed three books in psychology: Thinking Fast and Slow, Predictably Rational, and Daring Greatly. They helped me a lot. And from history, I really take a book recommended by Ray Dalio called Lessons of History. I think, and Hard Things About Hard Things, I think would be my two favorite books in history of business of the world.
And what's next for you in the business?
So we are currently, so two things. First, strengthening our profitable growth in Colombia for the service that we offer. And second, expanding the number of services that we provide to our clients in order to grow the business both in revenue and in EBITDA, both in Colombia for now.
It's going to be fun to watch as you guys continue to expand. I really like the fact that you're trying to do this in a responsible way of actually paying people's social security and employing them. I think that's a unique model that hopefully will catch on more as more businesses mature in the region. So keep it up, and
yes,
hopefully we can do a round two in 9 months or a year and see how things are going. Thanks for taking the time to do it, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Nathan. Have a great day.
Thanks again for listening to this episode of Crossing Borders with our guest, Gonzalo Ucar. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share with a friend and give us a rating on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's the best way to share what's going on in Latin America's ecosystem.